Hello everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Book Banter podcast. And we say hello to our co-host Jeena.
Hello.
Hello. We are gathered here today to pronounce us book nerds. I don't know.
Yeah, probably then.
Hey everyone. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Oh, hello, literally love. Welcome. I think this is good. Yeah. Let's see if everything is working as I want it to be working. That is the big question.
Well, I am seeing the result, and the result is very pretty.
Oh, that's good.
This is the first time I'm seeing this. It's very pretty.
The background is very pretty indeed, and the effects are really pretty as well. I found this background together with like a bunch of backgrounds for free to use. I can send them to you if you want them as
Yes,
well.
please.
Because they had outdoors ones, and they had like living room and bedroom and different kind of backgrounds. But I thought this background fitted us because it's called a study room.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit for the people who doesn't know who you are?
Sure. I mean, who doesn't know who I am, but
Not everyone on my channel knows who you are.
yeah, everyone in the world knows who I am. But I'm Jeena, and I am Ophi's best friend since high school, basically. And also VTuber, a knight, except that I don't have my knight armor on right now. But yeah, I mainly like games though. So, but to stream games, I don't do a whole lot of podcasts and chats stuff on my channel. I do mainly streams, and right now mainly Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I put some background music on. Tell me if it's no good, and if you can hear both me, Jeena, and the music. So it's like nothing outshines the other, because that would be very unfortunate. I feel like, you know, the only thing that you can mess up on is the. Oh, thank you for the follow. It's the audio. Audio is always like the tricky part when it comes to streaming and podcasts, I feel like.
Yeah, and also if you're streaming with someone else, because then you have like 3 bits and pieces that you need to level out so everything fits together. And it's kind of easy.
Yeah, good. Good. Then I don't have to think about it. I made tea, and I know that Jeena also made tea for this occasion. What tea did you make, Jeena?
I made black tea because I am a rebel when it comes to other people's streams, and then I make black tea on my own streams. I never make black tea.
Yeah, because you have a tendency to do red, right?
Yeah. Not red normally. I have a herbal tea that I use for my streams. So it's a hibiscus tea.
Oh, right.
But right now it's a black tea with orange. Interestingly enough, because I dislike orange flavor in anything, but it's orange and sunflower and raspberries and blackberries and stuff. Not really sure. A lot of berries and a lot of flowers. And a lot of citrus.
It sounds very good, though.
It is very good. Surprisingly good.
A lot of C vitamin, I would assume. I made my normal cactus tea. But I also read it has ringblomma in it.
Oh, that I have that one in mine as well.
I don't know what that is in English.
I was contemplating it and just kind of in my mind went ring flower, but that couldn't. No.
Yeah, I know that I said it marigold. Marigold, it's called. I would never have guessed that, to be honest.
No, that's a weird name.
Because I know I said it on my last stream, but I can never remember it, you know. But it's a really good tea, because it's a little bit sweet, but not too sweet, but it's not bitter either.
Yeah, I have found my mango tea again.
Oh, right.
That I used to love having that at work because I could just pop it into a thermos at like 7 a.m. and because it's a thermos, it would be too warm to drink until like 9 in the morning. But it's finding a tea that fits with kind of having to steep for 2 hours is difficult. And because I also drink with a lid on, then it needs to be a lot of flavor in it because I can't smell it the same way.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but the mango tea works really, really well for it, and I love mango flavor. I am very happy that I have found it again. And I'm gonna go back to that store and buy like half a kilogram.
buy me some too when you're there. I need to try
Okay.
it.
Okay. You should try this one though. I think you'd like this one. It's an interesting one.
I like any tea that has flour and fruity teas. I like. I don't really like. I'm not into herbal teas, and I'm not into bitter, spicy teas. That's not really what I like. But I do like flowery stuff and stuff like that. I want it to be sweet.
Yeah, I tend to like flowery stuff. It's just I've had some bad luck when it comes to rose flavored tea because it basically tastes like nothing except old tea. But other than that, I really like flowers in tea. I really like tropical fruits and tropical flowers in tea.
Yeah.
I typically hate bergamot in tea. Cannot stand it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe sometimes if I'm desperate.
You need to be really desperate and have a lot of sugar in, and I don't have sugar in my tea.
Well, not really that. You just have to like dip the leaves like really, really fast so it doesn't like soak at all.
So that it doesn't taste like tea anymore.
Yeah, it's flavored water. It is a weird one though, I must agree.
Yeah. But as well as Sophie, I don't really like spicy tea, like the chai tea. I can't. I can stand some ginger tea, but only because I know that it's healthy. But I do like my hibiscus tea, which is an herbal tea, but it's also flowers, so maybe it doesn't count. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mix of both, I would say.
Yeah, it doesn't have any tea leaves in it though, so it's technically an herbal tea. I don't like chamomile tea though.
I don't like it either.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. It is weird.
But then I also like some red tea, and I like matcha tea, and I have an oolong tea that I drink, so I kind of like the unflavored teas as well.
Black tea, yeah. I myself, I prefer black tea. And after that, I like the rooibos tea. And then after that, I like the green teas. And after that, like very dead last that I refuse to drink is the white and silver tea. I hate white tea. Every white tea that I got myself and I tried, it basically smells like puke.
I have never tried the white and silver teas.
I don't recommend.
Yeah, I know. For me, it kind of changes between seasons because in autumn, red tea is very much on top. During winter, spring, it's black tea, and during the heat of summer, it's basically green tea instead. Just because green tea is lower temperature, so therefore, kind of. But it can also change. Like sometimes I have a green tea day and I drink green tea, and sometimes in the middle of the summer I have a black tea day. So.
Hello, Cold Shade. Hello, Ophi and Miss Jeena. How are you both? It's been a while since we spoke. It's me, Shadow. Yeah, hello. I remember that you changed your name. I'm good. I think Jeena is good as well. I mean,
yeah.
You know, the normal stressful days, you know, as it is, I guess.
Yeah.
The normal daily life stress things.
Yeah, kind of. There's a lot of things going on at the moment.
There's a lot of things going on at the moment. But we will have to, you know, focus on the positive and the happy things. I actually made a Word document of things that, you know, so I wouldn't forget things, right? because like there were some things that I wanted to like point out with this subject that we're going to talk about today, and to quote these people, I needed to actually have the quotes, because I'm not that clever that I can remember like 50 quotes in my head. Not that I'm saying it's 50 quotes, but like I can't remember that many words after each other. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you had 50 quotes, though.
I mean, I have quotes, but it's just like, you know, I don't want to sit here on a live stream and be like, this person said that, and then actually they didn't say that, it was actually someone else, which I do sometimes. So I wanted to have my facts to be very straight this time, you know?
Yeah.
Not that I think it actually matters who said what, because it's just generalized information that I want to talk about anyways. It's not like this person said this, let's talk about what this person talked about. It's more the theme of it, I would say.
Yeah, it's like I've had situations like that with the students where I've basically said something that wasn't as truthful, but the gist of it still is the same.
And for everyone who doesn't know, Jeena is a teacher in her real life, and I'm a librarian. So when we do our discussion, it's kind of interesting because we come from two different aspects, I think, or we have different viewpoints in the way we get into it, but I think that we somehow have the same conclusions and thoughts in the end.
Yeah, kind of. I think that we have the same goal, but the path we go to that goal is different.
Yeah, I think that different things on the subject interest us more. Like some things interest me and some interest you, but like we want the same like end goal when we get there, you know?
Yeah.
I need to take my blanket off because I'm warm now.
Okay.
There we go. I was a little burrito, but now not anymore.
No burrito.
No burrito now.
But it's also like I am not only a teacher, but I am a science teacher. So I'm not on like I'm technically I don't work with literature at all.
You work with it in your own kind of way, because every subject do have literature.
Yeah, that is true actually, because we do have textbooks, for example, and we do search for information online, and we do work with a whole lot of information and text. It's just that we don't read like novels or fiction in that case. Yeah. I was about to say skönlitteratur because words.
Literary fiction, yeah.
Yeah.
That works.
The beautiful literature. We don't deal with that in science.
Exactly. Oh, hi, Tech Manning. Welcome.
Tech. Welcome.
But yeah, like, because today's subject, we're going to talk about something that I find to be very interesting. I don't know what you think. I don't know if it's something that you, like, you know, constantly, like, think about, because that's something I think about all the time. I see that Jeena is just, like, blinking. She's like, help me.
I'm just here, like, probably I don't, but I also do not remember.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you and everyone about the subject for today.
Yeah, please do, because you last told me, I don't know, a month ago or something.
Yeah, because we were going to have this episode like a month ago, but then stuff happened. Like, you got sick, I got sick, we both were sick, and then Christmas, and then like everything just happened. You know, so...
Yeah, and then I moved, so I didn't have a working computer. This is, by the way, the first time that I had to go search for my webcam in my boxes, because I had put up my computer to make sure everything worked, but I didn't get my webcam, so I needed to go look for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, things have happened.
Things have happened, but and the idea was that we were going to do one episode every month. And I still think that we should strive for that. But we will see. This is the second episode. The first episode we read Monkey King and we discussed that book. But during this episode, I wanted to talk about elitism when it comes to reading and books. Because it's been a thing for over hundreds of years, right? That it's always been a thing that books equal wealth, equal education, and not always have people been able to get education, and not everyone have been able to be reading. So books have always been like a symbol of status and class. But today it's been like formed into something else. Because back in the day, it was like more, like in the 1600s, for example, people wanted others to see them as well-read. And for a very long time, after the death as well. And this is when we can see in art and art styles that it's shifting, that when you have like a self-portrait of yourself, you can see people having books as accessories. And this was roughly 1600s. And
you know, you also had books on bookshelves. You really displayed all of the books that you had. Even the poorer homes had books because, you know, book binding were a thing then. So books were starting to become cheap, but you really displayed the books everywhere. Just like in the 1800s when people took pictures of farmers, what they brought out was their horses, because horses are status. So a family picture had horses.
Yeah, really. And it was just like, it's interesting because like if you see at these arts and self-portraits, you can sometimes see people reading the books in the portraits, but most likely you will see them either sitting in front of a bookshelf, or you will see them holding a book, or they will be stacks of books around them. So it's more like a symbol that you're showing people that you can afford having books around you, or you can have books in your hands, and it's almost like a handbag, but you're not really like reading it. So
and you could also like just rest your hand on a book.
Yeah, and I think like one of the most like, you know, iconic one for me, maybe I should have had it to show it now, but it's like, you know, Dante's Inferno, like his books, there is like a portrait of Dante's, and he's holding the big book, but he's holding it not for himself to be reading it, but he's holding it so that you as a viewer can read it. So he's basically holding the book for you to read.
Kind of interesting.
That is very interesting, because it's like he knows that I'm wealthy, I write books, I have myself, like, you know, I have this status and everything. I want you to be able to do the same, and so here I'm presenting books for you. I find that very interesting. It's a very beautiful painting as well. But something that struck me like a few years ago was when Ashley Tisdale, I don't know if you know who she is.
Nope.
She is a blogger and stuff like that. You know, I didn't know who she was either. I had to like Google, but she revealed.
Okay, so I'm not just stupid. Like
no, definitely not. But you and me, we don't know people, right?
Yeah,
we're not on social media.
Definitely not me. I'm just sitting in my little corner, being very happy, studying about atoms.
But she had a what do you call it? A vlog where she showed out, like, you know, this is our new home, you know. And then they got to the library, and I want to do quotations mark on this library because it is a library. It's a room full of books, but she had a book designer, because like apparently that's a thing. I would love to have that job, by the way, who basically designed the entire room to fit this person's interests. So it was like she had to buy 400 books. Not because she had never like read the books, she did not know anything about the books, but you know, the status of having your own library and having books, and you needed to have 400 books. So
Because it's a pretty number?
I don't know. I think it's, you know, because maybe it's a pretty number, or because like that's how many shelves they had, so they needed to fit the shelves. But she basically told her husband to go out and buy 400 books that roughly had something to do with their both interests, but it didn't have to be that interesting because they were not meant to be read. They were meant to be just for displaying.
Uh-huh.
So she wanted like a space to look fully decorated. And
why have a room like my place is very small, very small.
Yeah.
So I cannot understand this. But why on earth do you have an entire room dedicated to something that you won't use?
Because of the status, and because it's class, and because it's wealth. Because like even if we like look back in time, you have like Richard Diri. He was like a super famous collector. He wrote a book about his love for books, but in this pamphlet or mini book or essays, there was nothing about his enjoyment in reading, because he was not a reader, he was a collector. And in this entire pamphlet, it was just about how he enjoyed books through how they look, how they made people look at him as a person, because they were like, oh, you have these books, you know, that makes you fancy, you know. And there was a man who wrote a biography of this man, and he was like, I faced the absolute horror when I needed to go and interview Richard, because like you could not get to him because his entire house was just filled with books. Like you had to walk on books because there was like books all over the floor, and it was like stacked all up to like the ceiling. And to me that sounds lovely, but at some point it just gets so much that like obviously you have to walk all over the books. And do you even know what kind of books you have there? But also imagine that this man who had this many books, that he could not get out of bed because there was too many books everywhere. He didn't read a single one of his own books. He just had them for decoration and collecting.
I can still understand that a bit more than just, hey husband, go buy 400 books for me. Because at least when you collect books, you collect them because you like them somehow. Like maybe they are very pretty, or you really like you know of the Odyssey, for example, so you want a copy of famous books. I can understand that more than just buy me 400 random books.
But they wasn't random though. They had to be like stylish. They had to be good books, in quotation again, good books. And with good books it was usually like critically claimed books, hence classics, because that's the books that people would like think that you're like a good well-read person, right? Because that's the status and that gives you class. So it had to be she wanted them to be like, you know, good pretty books. They had to be photogenic books. They had to be like cool. In I don't know if you have seen many of like the book Instagram photos, like, you know, people basically buy books after color just so they can make a rainbow.
That makes sense why there are so many rainbow bookshelves.
Yeah, because like sure, there can be people who just automatically collected by chance, and then they started like, you know, placing them like this. But you never start out like that, right? Like, you know, you and me, we've been readers for many, many years.
Yeah.
But like, if you look at my bookshelves, if I was to do a rainbow, I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I have 4 bookshelves. If I wanted to do a rainbow, I would not be able to, because I don't have every color there is in the rainbow, like most on Instagram seems to have. So to
I
me,
do not have green, otherwise I'm pretty sure that I have all of the colors. It's not gonna be a nice gradient, but I have the colors.
but like most have a gradient because they either have like, you know, 2 shelves, like two lines, or they have like an entire bookshelf, like all of them in one color, and then it gets gradient throughout. So they have roughly the same amount of everything. And that can't be a coincidence.
It probably isn't. And it's also kind of interesting how they make their bookshelves be more of like it's more just like this is a pretty shelf more than a bookshelf filled with books, because there's a whole lot of, like, for example, in the Harry Potter fantasy scene, there's a whole lot of potion bottles or wands or random grottos and stuff like that. And I kind of want to have something similar, because I really, really love the book nooks. That's basically just a book-sized little habitat, basically, that you can have a fantasy little world in, and you can have fancy lights if you want to, and just have a tiny pocket dimension in the middle of your bookshelf. I really, really want a couple of those. But now when I'm starting to unpack, I used to have 1 bookshelf. I currently have 2. And I'm starting to notice that I probably can't fit all of my books into 2 bookshelves, especially not if I have book nooks.
Yeah, the big horror. It always happens, sadly.
Yeah. And I also want to buy more books, because there are some books that I'm just kind of noticed that they exist, and
You want
I'm
that.
kind of...
Yeah. The ever going, I need more books, and nothing is ever enough.
And like my issue is also that I want a lot of books. I want to read a lot of books, but I do not have the time and energy to read them.
Yeah.
So my to be read pile is just increasing in length.
I just find it interesting that it's so many trends when it comes to books and how your bookshelves need to look like. And I'm saying need to look like, because if you go into Book Talk, or you go to Bookstagram, like Book Instagram, or even Book Twitter, you will have aesthetically pleasing bookshelves. And when I say everyone looks the same, I mean legitimately every single bookshelf, every bookshelf photograph that you ever see is the same. And I've even seen people bullying other creators because they don't have the same shelves. And you know what's funny about that? Everyone wants to have the Billy IKEA bookshelf. And if you don't have that, you're not a real reader. Isn't that funny though, that like a Swedish IKEA furniture decides if you're a true reader or if you are like a posture, like, you know. Like
the interesting thing is that I like animals, a whole lot of animals, and a few years ago I was really into the guinea pig side of like the Swedish guinea pig scene thing. And if you want to be a good guinea pig owner, you need to have them in a cage you made yourself out of a billig bokhylla. So it's not only that the Billy bookshelf is imperative for book influencers, it's also imperative for guinea pig owners.
Yeah.
What is it with this bookshelf?
I don't know, but like, you know, I'm not complaining because like there could be so many bookshelves out there that's so expensive. So like the fact that the Billy bookshelf from IKEA is the it girl thing, like I'm not really complaining. But if I do find it really ridiculous that the bookshelf that isn't even a book defines you as a reader. So if you don't have the shelves and if you don't put your books on the shelf, you're not a reader or like a real reader. But I still read my books, right? So I should be a reader. It shouldn't matter where I place my books. Like, it shouldn't matter if I don't have a bookshelf at all and I place them on my floor because I'm a poor student. Like, it shouldn't really matter. Or it shouldn't even matter if you own a book, you know? Because, like, today we have libraries. Like, you know, there's a lot of people who go to a library and they borrow a book. But just because they don't own the book does not mean they're not a reader, because they still consume the same kind of text that you did. But I think that consumerism is like a big hit today, because back in the day, it was also a big thing. Something I found interesting is, I don't know, do you know what the 50p books are?
Nope.
Do you know what the Harley Quinn books are?
I want to say yes, but probably no.
If I say the Swedish word for it, will you know?
Maybe.
Tantsnuskböcker.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
They came out, I think, 1900s. They were 50 pence, I think, or 50p, or 50 cents per book. They were catered to middle-class women. It was supposed to be something easy to read because like your education was maybe not the best, but it was also something to like be easy to read because you don't want to, it was supposed to be a hobby, right? So it's something you do on your free time, and it couldn't be that expensive, so it was 50 pence or 50p. Later on they were called Harley Quinn books. I still think that it's called that, but I think the company is bought up by someone called Harley Quinn or something like that. But today it's basically the erotica that we can see today, like 50 Shades of Grey. If you would translate it, what we call it in Swedish, it's basically auntie porn or perverted auntie books, because it was always like, you know, the perverted historical romance fiction that like your grandma used to read or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what we called it, I remember. And it was always like on the cheaper side. You could like get 3 books really cheap or something. And it's auntie porn, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's what we called it. Tantsnusk. Old lady porn or old lady perverted stuff.
Yeah, or old lady naughties.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But these books came out also in a time where it was like we need to give like women a hobby. It was maybe not that common for in the 1800s that a woman went into the library and borrowed books, because like reading and libraries were very much a manly thing back in the day.
And women might get imagine if women started having thoughts.
Yeah, because this was
the horror.
Because this was the interesting thing, because they were like, we need to give women books, but we are afraid because we can't monitor women when they read, you know, so they can start having thoughts and like, you know, they can become individualities and stuff like that, and we don't want that because that's
And they
spooky.
can become insane from having thoughts because
Yeah.
the female mind is fragile. It cannot be having thoughts.
And
Yes.
that's why they made the 50 pence books, because like these were so simple-minded in the writing style, and it was like erotica or romance-ish books, and it was like that caters to women because what do they care about other than romance, because their entire existence is to marry a man, right?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, I feel like, you know, how these erotica books came about to begin with, that like, you know, we are afraid of women and their thoughts, but like they are still asking to be able to read, so we need to make like a genre for them, because they can obviously not read classics because they can't understand it, and we don't have like the manpower to monitor every woman's thought process while they're reading. So
Yeah.
and because that's, again, because they didn't have the money or like the people to monitor, because it again was a wealthy status thing that only really well educated girls could actually read classical fictions and classic literature and discuss these. It's really interesting when you see it like that.
Yeah, it kind of is. And it kind of also puts it into perspective because it basically is a genre that was created because people looked down at others like women and needed a simple-minded thing like the easy, like bad, in parenthesis, thing for them to read. And what do we do today? We still look down on erotica. We still look down on 50 Shades of Grey. We still look down on the people reading these books.
Yeah. I still think, I don't know, you're not that much on book talk as I am, I would assume. Because today, it's actually the other way around. Like, you know, when we were younger, it was like, you know, oh my god, erotica, you can't read that. That's oof, you know. Because it was like that status of, mostly because it was naughty fiction, you know, because it was like a little bit like you can't read erotica, like that's basically porn on a page, you know. It felt very ugh, you know. But also the other fact that you wanted to read real fiction, and this erotica was never classed as real fiction, and they always had to like self-publish themselves, because there were never like a company that would publish these kinds of books. Today there's like multiple erotica companies that like are legit big companies. The most romantic books that you see today on like the Billboard, like the top 10 bestsellers in America, erotica, almost all of them.
And it's kind of the same thing if you look into the young adult scene today,
Oh my
young
God.
adult fantasy. Like we have talked about it previously because I like my friend group to go out on fantasy adventures. I do not wish to read about Fae having the naughties with humans. That is something that I am not interested in reading.
Yeah.
But
And
that's basically everything that there is right now.
I don't know if, because I saw a girl, she did a video essay on this, and I don't remember her name specifically now, but she made that before, when we were teenagers, and now I'm speaking like 15 years ago, maybe more, like
You're not that old, but yeah.
middle grader books and teenager books, they had like a specific cartoonish style to them that just like from the glimpse of the eye you can directly tell that these books were specifically made for a younger audience. if you then looked at these auntie naughties, or like, you know, the 50 pence books back in the day, and you look at how young adult fantasy books, or non-fantasy for that matter as well, look today, they look the same cover wise. The covers, like, it's very much usual to have a man with a bare upper body on a young adult book. Like, legit, have you seen it in the bookshop? I feel like Cassandra Clare is very good at this. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, Claire is very good at that, yeah.
Yeah, she's very good at that.
Yeah?
And it's interesting that kind of style that people look down on, and was like, damn, erotica and stuff, it goes down in ages now. Like, those covers that, like, you know, a couple who's swoon over each other, like half dressed, you know, and being like, ooh, save me. That kind of is how young adult covers looks today, if you look at it. And it's interesting that it's become like that. And I also feel like, I personally feel like every cover today looks the same. I understand it's like this is what's popular now, so everyone does it. But I can't, for the life of me, see the difference in books anymore.
But it's also like, because I like to read fantasy like my little happy place. But because of the incessant erotica bits, and like, if you do like to read erotica, that's completely fine by me. It's just not my cup of tea, because of reasons.
Yeah.
But I really struggle finding fantasy books that kind of cater to me, because you can't go by the front page anymore. Like, sure, if I see a front page with a big half-naked dude, I'm gonna know that there's gonna be some erotica in it. But if you take Sarah J. Maas, for example, her court of blah 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 things,
Yeah.
they don't look.
But they are.
But they are.
Yeah.
And there are other examples like that as well, like Fourth Wing being one of those examples as well. Like, they don't look.
Yeah.
But they are.
Yeah.
So it's like a couple of years ago, I just started noticing that issue, and I just kind of went like, I don't dare buy books anymore, because I don't want to buy another book that I'm gonna dislike in that way. And it's you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. That is a thing, I know. But it's also really, really difficult to find books that cater to what I want. And also because like back in the day when you and me were young, the back of the book had a really big description of what the book was about.
Yeah.
We don't have that today.
No.
If you're lucky, you have a sentence. Otherwise, you basically have what a bunch of random people think about the book. And that doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah. I think it's because a lot of authors today are influencers. I also I saw a video essay on an author who is she's very active on AuthorTube, which is basically author YouTube, because there's author YouTubers out there who vlog their like writing experience and like, you know, their progress in writing their books. And you have to be an influencer today to even get your name out there to be published. You either have to be extremely, extremely good and specifically special in your writing, or you have to be an influencer and have a big name that you have branded out. Otherwise, you will not have get your book published if you don't publish it yourself, which is very easy today if you compare to how it was back in the day. But something that's really interesting is back in the day when you read fantasy, you would get erotica and stuff like that in adult fantasy, which is why a lot of people started reading young adult fantasy, because they wanted the fantasy of the world, and they want the world building, and they wanted the adventures and stuff like that, they wanted the action. But now the erotica have crawled itself down to the young adult side, which is to me a very gray side, because a lot of the characters are underaged, and also the audience who read it are underaged. Even if you look at book talk, and almost every book talker that's a huge influencer prefer fantasy, they are adults. So I feel because a lot of adults have moved down to read young adult, people have started to cater to the adults who read the genre, and forgot to think about the fact that it's actually young adults who read the genre. Because I don't mind some, not sexual tension, but I don't mind if there's a romance, because who haven't been 14 and in love? But when we're talking about a beast being who's 2,000 years old that's moaning, "You're a good girl, show daddy how good you are," while he's caressing you in bed in a young adult fiction book, it's weird to me when you know that the character is 15.
And also when you have very graphic descriptions, like certain body parts twitching and
yeah, it's very graphic today on how they describe it. And I mean, I'm not saying that teenagers doesn't watch porn, come on, it's the internet. But I still feel we should be a little bit
like the good old fade to black.
Yeah, but it's just sad that if you want to have an actual fantasy today, it's really hard to find it, because there's basically only fantasy smut out there, because that is what's trending, because that's what book talk is screaming after. So finding a fantasy for the adventure, and a fantasy, that's weird to say that, that you have to be very specific. Yeah. Because today fantasy is basically smut with old beasts and beings. That is what a fantasy is today. And if you want to have an actual old fantasy, you actually have to go back in time, and you have to read the classics Lord of the Rings. There you
guess why that one is on my to be read list. I have The Hobbit on my nightstand waiting for me.
It's a really good book. You should definitely get into it.
Yeah, it's a lack of energy for it, because it kind of needs me to not be a zombie when I read it.
Yeah.
That's basically the only reason why I haven't really started it. But yeah, and I do have a couple of books, fantasy books, that seems to be classical fantasy-esque, with there might be some romances, but the major thing is the plot.
Yeah, it's not the main point of view is not the romance and the smut.
Yeah, and it's not, it's my partner for life, it's my soulmate, or whatever it's called, because different fantasy books call it by different things.
That's very true.
And that's a trope that I used to think that it was very romantic, and right now I just feel like it's extremely problematic.
Yeah. I think
because
it's
you can just
the older you get, the more you realize the red flags in books.
Yeah.
Something that I'm really sad about is books that I loved as a teenager, or books that I loved as a preteen or a middle schooler. I have tried to reread them now because I love them, and I'm just seeing all the red flags, and I'm like, how the fuck did I like this? And I'm still giving it like 4 or 5 star because of my experience back in the day, and I remember the feeling when I found it. But like, I can't for the life of me give them 5 stars now because they're not that good. They are really bad and really problematic. But I loved them back in the day.
Yeah. And it's kind of the same for me with Sarah J. Maas, kind of ish, but it's turned into much. I don't have any nostalgic feelings to it because, yeah. But back when I found A Court of Thorns and Roses, that was basically right when me and my toxic ex-friend kind of broke up or something like that.
Yeah.
So the first 2 books in that series really catered to me in a sense of this is actually what I'm going through at the moment.
Yeah.
Especially the second book where she kind of breaks up with Tamlin and discover that he's toxic and all of that things. Like that was my lived reality. So it really catered to me like that. Now that I've kind of grown out of those feelings and also grown out of that situation as a whole, and I look back to those books, I try to read them again, all I see is a romanticized version of violence. Yeah. And then I can't stand it anymore because of that. And once again, if you love Sarah J. Maas, all power to you. I cannot stand it because of that reasons and several other bits and pieces.
I see that Tech is saying that one of his recent fantasy novel had a trigger warning before, and he felt it was very refreshing. I can tell you that they have to have that today due to all the smut that they actually have in young adult books. And that's just what I'm saying. Isn't that problematic when you have to start to have a trigger warning list in every young adult book, or erotica book for that matter as well? Like, it made sense that if you wrote erotica, some people will be into like BDSM kink and stuff like that, and sometimes you have to have a warning for that. It makes sense because erotica is very like nuanced, and you don't want to read something that you're not into or that you find triggering. But if you have to have a trigger warning, a legitimately trigger warning on a young adult fantasy book, it's not a fantasy book anymore. Then you're basically reading an erotica.
And I also remember picking up Court of Thorns and Roses because I think I read on it like, hey, it's graphical, it has romance scenes in it.
Yeah.
But my mind also went like my mind when it comes to romance is just, it's a cinnamon, I'm a cinnamon bun.
Yeah.
But my brain basically just read that and went like, well, it's young adult. How bad can it be?
Yeah.
It turns out it can be pretty bad.
It can be really bad these days.
But that's also a thing, like you read, you know that this book is young adult and you read that it has romance scenes in it. Full outright porn is not really the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, it's not really. And I can see that you're talking about Game of Thrones in the chat, and if that had an influence in it due to the popularity. The Game of Thrones books are advertised as adult fantasy because of the I was gonna say pornographic they have in the books, but like, yeah, basically. But they are actually not set to be young adult books. Well, we're talking about teenager books that's supposed to be for 15, 14-year-olds. And because it's so popular on TikTok, I recently saw this issue at my library. In my library, school library, I have middle graders. I had a girl in fourth grade, it was 4th or 5th grade. I think it was 5th grade. She came up to me and she basically told me that her mom had reserved a book at like the big public library. And
A 10-year-old, by the way, for those who don't know. 10-year-old, 10,
yeah.
11.
Yeah, she's a 10-year-old. And she was like, I wanted this book and my mom reserved it at the big public library, but there's like a huge queue for it. I think it was like 20 people before her, and she was like, that's going to take ages until I get it. Is it possibility that you have it in the school library? And I was like, sure, I can look into it, you know, because I want to cater to my kids, of course, you know. Then she gives me the title, and I just... It's problematic in different ways, because this specific book was not a fantasy book. It was a young adult book, though. It is made for 15, 16-year-olds maybe. But people on BookTok or TikTok have been pushing this book as the best book of the year, and they say that if you don't read this, you're not a true reader and you can't call yourself a reader if you have not read it. And obviously she wanted to read it because she was also a huge book lover and into BookTok, sadly. It's a book about two 16-year-olds who want to lose their virginity, and they try to do it in the best way possible by using drugs and to a little bit maybe take someone's virginity in a very non-consent way. And this is a 10-year-old who wanted to read that book because but every influencer on BookTok told her that this is what you have to read, or else, you know. She herself did not know what it was about. I knew what it was about because I seen people talk about the problematic behind these books. She didn't know. She thought it was a book about an ice skater, an ice skater and a hockey player, and like maybe some romance, because that's kind of how like the cover looked like. If I would have been the librarian at the public library and that mom would come to me and say that she wanted to do a reservation on this book for her kid that's 10, I would have a talk with the mom and tell her, we can't deny people, obviously. We don't have the right to deny any information or book to anyone. But I would have most definitely told the mom, hey, you do know, and then told her about the book, and then make her take a decision if she still wants to do a reservation on the book. So it's interesting to me that there is a librarian out there that probably didn't do that. Because I don't feel like a mom would reserve like a book like that if they actually knew what the book was about. Then again, like maybe the librarian herself or himself did not know what the book is about and just see it as another number, you know, in the category.
Yeah, and a young adult book for a kid.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be fine, you know.
Yeah. And it's not today.
Yeah, and it's not.
It is like back in the day, maybe, but like still, there's so many subjects in young adult books that you can't give that to a 10-year-old. Like, you know, because you have the thing with there's so many things that's so problematic, you know. I'm just firing myself up when I'm thinking about it. I asked her if she knew what the book was about, and she said ice skating, and I was like, oh my god, you're not gonna be this innocent after reading that book, but what can I say? What can I do, you know?
Yeah.
I can't really like tell a 10-year-old, you know, that, you know, that's porn, because like, what? that would be weird.
Yeah. And that also kind of takes into the picture how problematic influencing can be in a scale. Like, technically both you and me are influencers.
Yeah.
Because we are speaking to people on the YouTubes that is influencing.
The YouTubes.
Yeah, the YouTubes. Let me call stuff what I want.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's also like they are gatekeeping being a book lover. To me, it sounds the exact same as the vegetarian/vegan stuff did when we were kids.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
oh, you like animals, then you have to be a vegetarian, right? Because if you're not a vegetarian, you can't like animals. And it didn't work on me back in the day because my dad is a farmer.
Yeah.
But if I wouldn't have been a farmer, if I hadn't had that background, it would have been so hard for me to just not fall for that kind of gatekeeping.
Yeah, but standing strong and having your own beliefs. That's kind of like I have a goal every year now, and I've had for 1 year now, I think, all of 2023 and now 2024, is to not read books just because people on Book Talk and Bookstagram is telling me this is the shit right now. Because I had a time in my life that, like, I read a lot of books, of course. I can, without any issue, read 1,000 pages in one day. And so I don't really have an issue reading one book a day or more. So I just thought it doesn't matter. I can read this shitty book that people are talking about on TikTok just to like have read it, because then I can say I've read it. But I just hated everything I was reading because I didn't read out of joy anymore. And it's really sad because I also felt very, very lonely when I read this. Because I knew when I heard about the books and they were talking about the books that this is nothing I will enjoy. I will merely spend these hours reading this book just because I have to. Because a couple of big book talkers are telling me that I have to read them. And it was always fantasy books, which is why I today have a very problematic feeling towards fantasy books. There's nothing really about fantasy that I dislike, but it's because fantasy is like the biggest genre right now. Like, it's either fantasy or it's pure romance erotica. It's either or. Like, those two are like the biggest book influencer genres right now.
Fantasy erotica or erotica.
Or romance, just romance.
Okay, or romance.
There's Christian erotica that's called romance, actually.
Okay, oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about the Christian erotica.
The feel-good Christian erotica.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, and I don't like romance when romance is the only plot. Hence why I don't, because I want to read something that's more than just like, ooh, he looked at me, and then you like think about him for 50 pages and how you want to have his child. That's not really my kind of reading. I could maybe enjoy fantasy, but because I was spoon-fed with this is what you have to read to be an influencer, I started hating reading so much. Like 2022, I hated that year. I read 450 books that year. And I read like 90% of all those books I hated to the core. And just that year, just thinking about reading made me bitter and unhappy. Because I read what they told me to read. And it makes me sad that we don't see a bigger spread in genres, and that I've seen so many booktubers who come out and they have a fresh idea of these are the kind of genres and ideas that I like to read about, but then they feel like they don't get traction because it's not aesthetically pleasing, your bookshelves are not pretty enough, your thoughts and genres are not what everyone else is. Your hair is not up in this cool updo that everyone else's is, and you know, you don't have that gothic look to you or whatever it is, because there's so many things to booktubes and book influencers today that like you have to look like this, your bookshelf has to look like this, your reading scene, like, you know, the way you read have to look like this, you have to like this coffee, this specific coffee you have to enjoy, this specific genre you have to read. And everyone starts out strong, but then everyone just gravitates towards, this is what gives me views, I will start doing this to get views on my TikTok or my Instagram that has to do with books, or YouTube. And then they get stuck there. And I almost did that 2022. I got out though. Happy about that, because I was so unhappy. I was so unhappy reading what people told me to read, and it makes me sad on the inside that people are not strong enough. And like, I was not strong enough, but like, we should all be strong enough. And that's what makes me sad when it comes to people discussing this is good literature and this is bad literature, because back in the day it was so black and white. Back in the day it was like classical literature that was fancy. You could only understand it if you had an education, because it had hard words in it, and it was hard to understand if you did not have an education. And for that you needed money to actually get an education. It was like a class symbol. Today when it comes to elitism and books, it's more like the people have decided through social media that we're going to push this book. And there are like a few queen bees up there who decide which books we're pushing, what genres we're pushing, which
authors we're pushing,
what aesthetic we're pushing. It's really sad. It makes me so sad when I think about it, because like it's such a gray zone now, which I'm happy about. Like, we don't have that extreme elitism today, because like education is roughly almost everyone gets it in the Western world. Of course there's countries who not everyone is lucky to get an education, but today compared to the 1700s, it's not just the elite that's getting an education. And we have libraries today, meaning everyone has free access, not every country again, but most, free access to books and information. So obviously we have like gotten away from the fact that there is nothing that fancy or good or bad literature, and it's more like a gray scale. And obviously we still have like the classics will always be classics. But now what's considered a good book is not really because it's written good or because it's a Nobel Prize winner, for example. That's not what makes a book good today, sadly. It's more social media.
Yeah, and also if you like think about it in a test of time, like, right, if you take Frankenstein, for example, or Sherlock Holmes, who were really, really big books when they came out, really big, but they still hold their weight today. And when I think about the books that are super popular right now, for example, A Court of Thorns and Roses, for Fourth Wing. I haven't read Fourth Wing though, so I don't know. I have read the first chapter and there were a whole lot of really good looking boys.
Yeah.
Like, are they gonna be considered good, equally good, in 100 years? Because I'm pretty sure that they won't.
No. They will die down. I'm 100% sure that what we think is good today because of social media people in 200 years will not be like, look at this. Maybe they will see like Twilight and like, 50 Shades of Grey, because they was a huge game changer for that genre, which will make them classics due to that.
Yeah, like Hobbit or Lord of the Rings are trendsetters for fantasy. They wasn't the first, but they were the trendsetters for what was to come.
Yeah, and that is what 50 Shades of Grey is, as well as Twilight is. They will most likely be classics. Maybe even the Hunger Games, I believe, will be like Harry Potter, for example.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
I think they're going to be classics. But if we see everything that's grayed out, that's in between, like, Sarah J. Maas or Cassandra Clare, or like, all of these things in between, I think they're going to just wash out, and like maybe someone who like, nerd into like, oh my god, what happened 2020 and like the years to come, like I love that kind of literature. Maybe a nerd will read the books and find them, but I don't believe they're going to be all set to be classics. It's only going to be like the first trendsetter that they're going to talk about. If they're going to be viewed in the same elitism as, like, for example, Anna Karenina, or for example Dante's Inferno, or like the Odyssey, for example, because that's really old books that we still like, oh my god, that's amazing. Will they think the same about Twilight in like 500 years? Probably not.
Probably not. They might think about Twilight the same way we think about the Narnia books. Like, they are classic, but they are child literature, so I can understand why they are classics, but do I have a big urge to read the Narnia books? No.
As long as they don't look at them as the same way as we view Astrid Lindgren, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Because if they look at a book the same as they look at Astrid Lindgren, then I'm happy to not be
We're gonna have some issues.
Yeah, I'm happy to not be allowed at that century, But I see that you say that it's like a fashion, like the fashion trends and stuff. Because there is actually, I tried to find it before the stream, but there was a fashion runway recently at like Fashion Week, I think it was. And instead of using purses as accessories, they actually put books in the hands of every model to hold while they walked down the runway, because that completed the look to make the models look sophisticated and smart. I tried to find it really badly to see actually what year this was, and for like who did this, but I read articles about it, and I thought that was like really funny, because after that there was so many models, celebrities all over the world posting on their Instagram holding books. I think even Bella Hadid, I think she's like one of the, and Gigi, I think they're like one of the biggest models out there. Every time they leave the house for a while, they had a book in their hands, and it was different kind of books, and they had a personal book decider that would like decide and design a specific book that would go well with their outfit for the day, just because they wanted them to be photographed holding a book, so the book needed to be aesthetically pleasing with their outfits, but they also had to be fancy enough to be like, oh my god, she's reading this. And like one part of me is happy the books are a fashion statement, because I feel like that's easier for nerds today to like blend in. I feel like when we were in middle school and high school, it was really hard because I didn't want to like do something on recess. You know, I didn't want to play with the other kids. I was like different. I wanted to sit and read, you know, and there was always bullying going on. Like, you know, there's always going to be teasing when it comes to kids. So if you make books like a normal trend, I mean, like a few years ago, you had a trend with the glasses that everyone needed to have glasses because that made you look smart, but you did not actually have any glass in your glasses. It was just like empty frames. I think that's still a thing, by the way.
It probably is. Yeah.
It's interesting how it's gone from just like because like it made sense back in the day that it was like a wealthy class status thing, because not everyone could afford to have like, you know, their own library. I have a quote here actually from a poet from the Roman Empire, Seneca. He wrote that he was so disgusted about people buying books that they didn't read. And he said, you can see the complete works of orators and historians on shelves up to the ceiling. Because like the bathroom, a library has become an essential ornament of rich house. Because like back in the day was also like, you know, you did not really have your own bathroom or your own what do you call it, bathroom, like not bathroom but like a bath. They went to like public bath.
Yeah, public baths, bathhouses and stuff like that.
So
except if you were really, really well, not bath. You didn't take baths in your own home if you weren't like an emperor, I think.
you still went to like because it was like a social gathering, but like it was not.
And you even went to the toilet in public.
Yeah.
Except if you were really wealthy, because then you actually had a toilet of your own.
Yeah.
But normal people didn't have that. So if you wanted to go to the toilet, you went to the public toilet and then you had a chat with your neighbor.
Yeah.
At the toilet.
And that's why he say that just like with bathrooms, libraries full with books up to the ceiling has become an essential ornament for a rich house. So it's nothing that was needed. It was an ornament. It was a decoration. Like it was something to just show how rich you are. It's something that you can afford and nobody else can afford. But he was really disgusted with the fact that people got themselves a library in their house with books that they never touched and they just laid there untouched.
Yeah.
But I can say 100% now though, it's thanks to a lot of these libraries, personal libraries, that we have saved a lot of poems to this day from that time, because there was a lot of collectors, a lot of like private collectors, private libraries. They didn't touch the scrolls and they didn't touch the books, and therefore they were preserved for us to read today. So even if we are disgusted about the fact that people are buying and consuming, you know, buying like big bulks, like 400 books just because it has to look good, you know, like we're still like, thanks to them, we can appreciate poems from the empire, like the Roman Empire.
Yeah, and it's also kind of interesting that people like that have existed through all the ages. Like, I've seen certain YouTube shorts where they're basically talking about bookworms consuming a lot of books and book dragons who hoard a lot of books.
Yeah.
and that those two are different hobbies, because I agree. I very much like to window shop, like it's not called window shop but in English, but window shop books more than I actually am spending time reading them. Like my Full Metal Alchemist series being a prime example of that. The amount of hours that I have spent on gathering them is gonna be equal to the amount of hours that I'm gonna be actually reading them.
Yeah.
But I am actually gonna be reading them. I am going through them, so it's just that it took me many hours to get them.
Yeah.
And I'm still missing one. It was supposed to come yesterday. It has not arrived yet.
I had a time in my life. It was roughly from my middle grade years towards 2019, I think, 2020. It was before Corona or COVID. Was it 2019? Yep. 2018? I don't know, something there. That's when I decided, in between my youth and before COVID, I was like collecting everything. Every book I got my hand on, I was like, I will save you. And I took it in. No matter how broken or how uninteresting the legit book was. Like, any book I could get my hands on, I was like, you're going to my personal collection. And then it just stood there for years and years and years. And I was like, I don't know why I have it, because I'm never going to read it. But like, it looked pretty, I guess. And
yeah, and I also had the notion of this book is old, therefore I need to collect it.
Even
and
though I have
old
no
could
idea what
be
it was.
anything from the 70s to older. But the older, the more powerful, or the more like classical, or you felt kind of. And it's just I rescued books from my school library back in my middle school library. I have never touched them.
Same. And as a librarian, we also have book sales from books that we can't fit into the library anymore. So we have book sales every year. And for librarians, before we actually have the book sales, we get to get the first pick before everyone else, and it's a perk in your job that you don't really have to pay for it. You just take it. And it's just like, if you have a book that's super, like, it's falling apart, we have to throw it out or something, I can take it. I've taken many books from my job. It's not good. But then before COVID, I was like, I want my bookshelves to represent me as a reader. And that's when I decided to just throw away every book that I felt was not like representing me. And when I say that, it's either I want the book to be a 5-star read, something that I loved to read, or it has to be on a subject that brings me joy. For example, I have books that it was not a 5-star read, maybe, but I still love it so immensely, and therefore I have to collect it. For example, I don't love every Stephen King book that is ever made. They are not 5-star reads, not all of them at all, but I'm still collecting all his work in different collections and different covers and editions, and I might have like 5 It books. I have
but
issues.
that is also because you love the author in and of itself.
Yeah, so like they spark joy in me, because I want people that when they come home to me, I don't want them to just be like, shit, she has a ton of books. I want them to be like, this is who she is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I want them to like get a sense of my interests as a person, what I'm into.
Yeah. And after hearing you talk about that, I kind of started thinking about the same thing. So when I moved, I did a couple of like I removed certain books even before that, but especially after moving, there are certain books that I basically just very much did not bring with me. And some of the books that I did not bring with me were
Sarah
the
J.
famous
Maas.
from TikTok books. Because right now it's gotten to the point where if a book boasts with "I'm famous from TikTok," I don't even look at it.
Yeah, but that's because we know why you're famous from TikTok. Because we
Yeah.
know what genre people on TikTok are obviously into.
Yeah, and I also have books on my bookshelf that I haven't read yet. So there are books that I might not have on my bookshelf for indefinite amount of time. Like the Full Metal series, they are gonna be here. Any Naomi Novik book that I can get my grab a little hands on, it's gonna be in my bookshelf. In a hardcover, except for the dragon books, because they were really, really pretty in the pocket version. But other than that, I'm gonna be like kind of critical about which books that I keep and not, mainly because I want, like, if I want to read a book, I want to have a book at home that I enjoy or that I can be proud of that I have, or that I can have good memories of when I look at them in the bookshelf.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a book on my bookshelf that just makes me go, ugh, that's the book where the teenage boys made the naughties while a random centaur was there. Song of Achilles.
Yeah. I have 3 books, I think, that doesn't spark joy with me right now that I might get rid of, but I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, I have certain books like that as well, I'm pretty sure, but I also haven't actually put up all of my books yet. And like some of the books that I'm iffy about are mangas. Because I have like a series that it's fine, but I'm not really sure I want to continue collecting it.
Which one is
And if
it?
It's Witch Hat Atelier.
Right, yeah.
Other than that, I do want to have all of the Assassination Classroom things because I'm a teacher and I have way too high standards for myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Clearly. Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah. I have Legends and Lattes, but I'm not worried about that one. I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna like it. But there are some other books that I'm not really sure that I'm actually gonna like.
I feel like we should read Legends and Lotus together because I want to read that one as well. And what I heard, it's basically a feel good about adventuring and giving up adventuring to have a quiet life and not romance. So most likely not going to be that bad, I think. Maybe. Perchance.
Yeah, there is a chance of that one being either just a very cozy read or something that's actually very good.
Legends and Lotus are awesome. Yeah, I think so too. That's a good fantasy. Yeah. I think that's one of the good fantasy, and I'm doing quotation marks on the good. I wish my character had the bunny ears so I could do, because I do them a lot. But
I have done them a lot as well. All I can do is that face.
But yeah, it's actually one of the few good books that's been recommended on Book Talks, I feel like, and I have not read it yet, but I feel like that's up your alley. So I know that when we were in a bookstore and I saw that super pretty edition of it that had like painted edges, I was like, Jeena,
the cinnamon buns.
you should definitely get that one. And you were like, ooh. And then after you got it, I was like, in my mind, I was like, please don't take it, because then I can take it. But and I've been trying to find it, but I can't find the sprayed edges anywhere, and I'm sad, but it's okay. I don't need it. I prefer you having a good book, I guess.
Well, also I am the fantasy nerd, so
You are, yeah.
I also have a book called The Blade Itself. It's in a book bag right now, but it's over there.
Yeah, over there, yes.
Yeah, over there.
I like how both our characters are looking at that side, but yeah, over there, yeah, of
Yeah, over there. And that is also supposed to be, I think it's kind of like adult fantasy, what I used to think adult fantasy was. So it's basically more close to what I wished that young adult fantasy would be.
Yeah.
I am kind of hopeful to that one, and it's also very, very pretty. Because it basically looks like a really, really old frayed book. The parchment look, kind of.
I love pretty books. Because, like, like you said, like, reading and collecting books are two different hobbies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can see that since, like, everything we've been talking about today, like, with the critic who had collections of books, so he could not leave his bedroom and stuff. There is people who collect books. I think there's a third one though, like, it's the people who read books, and then it's the people who collect books. You can be a reader and collect books as well, but you don't have to read books to be a collector of books. But there's a third one: buying books.
Yep.
I feel like some people get enjoyment out of buying tons of books. And when I say tons of books, I mean we're doing a 250 haul video right now of books that I bought this December. I mean, you and we as well like to buy books. Like, I can't with a good heart say I don't like buying books, because, like, I buy books when I'm sad. It makes me feel happy in the moment.
Yeah.
Because I want to collect them. But there's a lot of people who buy books just to say that they have bought the books, as like a status class kind of thing. Like, I had enough money and wealth to buy 50 books this month, and here is January's 80 haul. Like, we got 80 books haul because I have money enough to buy this many books,
Yeah.
Which also
kind of reminds me of the whole Vaska champagne thing people did in Stockholm a couple of years ago, where they just bought a really, really expensive bottle of champagne to pour it out in the sink because they could.
Yeah, because they have the money.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's like another thing again, that to buy books is one hobby, or hobby in quotation again, but you don't actually have to read everything that you buy. And I usually do. I think that I have like 5 or 6 books now on my bookshelves that I haven't read. I'm very evident, like, I have to read everything on my bookshelves, and I don't want to bring anything in that I'm not 100% standing for as a reader. So I usually borrow things because I'm a librarian. I have easy access to books, and I have also e-readers and audiobooks. And if I like the audiobooks or the ebook, I will buy the physical copy of it. So I'm very, like, I don't buy that many books anymore. I feel like when we were younger and we went to our favorite bookstore of all time, that's, by the way, not our favorite bookstore anymore, because I hope they burn in hell. We don't have to go into it.
Because we're gonna be here for a very whole lot of hours if we do.
We're not gonna talk about that. We can talk about that another day. Probably not, because they will see it and they will be sad. But but there is this one bookstore that we really love because it's very directed to nerdy people in nerdy interest, such as sci-fi fiction, fantasy, and horror, and manga, and imported books. And then you have board games as well, and Warhammer and everything.
And Dungeons and Dragons and stuff.
Yeah, board games.
Basically nerd stuff.
So we would go there 2 or 3 times a year, and we would spend like
we had a limit at $300.
Yeah, the limit was $300 each time.
Yeah.
And depending on what the books would cost, we would spend that much. Sometimes we went over. Sometimes we had a good day and we only did like 200 maybe.
Yeah, I was about to say that sometimes we went there and just having bought for $200 and we were immensely happy about it. And then on the train home...
we got sad.
No, we didn't get sad because then I had the pleasure of tearing down off the stickers so that our parents wouldn't see how much we actually spent.
Yeah, because like I had we lived with our parents when we were teens, clearly. Yeah. But like my dad, being a military dad, he would always be very like, you need to save young girl, and I had a job, multiple jobs.
And my mom being like basically a buyer for a company. Also very much very economic minded.
So like, I would come home to a military dad who would like, what did you buy? You can go to the library and get those books. You don't have to buy all these books, So weirdly enough, every time we went to this bookstore, it was a sale. And it was pretty big. And the books did not cost much at all.
Yeah. Very weird how lucky we were with the sales.
All the time. And they had so many sales. And my dad was like, how can they like run? And I was like, I don't know. He 100% knew.
Yeah.
But still, I thought it was kind of funny, because like other people, they have to be like, sneaking out, or maybe like, they trying alcohol or cigarettes or stuff, I had to like smuggle my books into my room without having my parents find out that I got myself new books. Like
I had to smuggle the plushies in, the nerdy plushies.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah. The books I could show, because books were okay for me to buy. I just teared off the stickers first, especially for the mangas.
Yeah.
But the plushies I needed to smuggle in.
Yeah, my dad did not feel, but like my parents are not like reader people. But I remember one time, I was trying to be smarter for my own good in like a non-good way. Sometimes you should not plan out to lie. Sometimes you should just roll with it. That's what I learned that time. But I had bought a book. It was a kitty book,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it started in the morning where my friends, this was before I met Jeena, with my friends, they were like, let's take the train and hide in the toilet of the train so we don't have to pay for a train ticket, and go into the big city and do some shopping. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I need to ask my mom for permission first, because that meant skipping school, right? You can't just go like, in the middle of the day. So, and my friends were like, what do you mean ask your mom for permission? And I was like, I have to ask my mom. And then we went to the cafeteria in school where they had a phone, and I called my mom. And I asked her, I was like, Mom, my friends are gonna skip school. Is it okay if I skip school as well? And my mom was like, the fuck, Ovi? No, you're not skipping school just because the other kids are skipping school. And I was like, but Mom, everyone is skipping school, you know? And and my friends were like, did she say yes? And I was like, no, she told me no. And then she hung up on me. And they were like, oh, so you're not coming? And I was like, yeah, I'm coming. You know, so I still went though. So we went into the city. And I found a book in the bookstore that I really wanted. I bought it for myself, clearly. But then when I got home, you know, I was home before my mom. And I was like super scared because I was like, what do I do, you know? Like, if she see this book, she will definitely know that I still went to the city and I still skipped school. But then I remembered in my city, there was like an old bookstore back in the day. And I was like, I will tell my mom that on my way home from work, I got this book at that bookstore. But I was like, I'm going to prepare it as a, you know, I'm not going to tell her, because if I go up to tell her, look at this book, I got this in this store, she's going to suspect something, right? So I told my little brother, and I told him, look, little brother, I got this book and I got it from this store, you know, that's, you know, close to the eye doctor. And he was like, okay, I don't give a fuck. And I was like, okay, that's good, you know, because now I planted the seed. And then during dinner time, you know, everyone was eating. My little brother suddenly said, all right, Ophi got a book today. And my mom, she just like turned. And it was like, you know, when you see your mom and she just like, she did what now? She had a book? What store did she go to? Where did she get that book? And I was like, oh, you know, I went to that bookstore that's close to the eye doctor. And she just stared at me like with those ferocious eyes like, Ophi, that store closed 2 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, you're right, I forgot. So he definitely found out that I went to the big city and skipped school that day, and I was grounded. But I still got my book though, so you know I could read my book while I was grounded, so I was pretty happy.
Yeah.
You know. Because it's something that my parents never caught on to, was grounding me is like giving me a treat, because then it means I can stay home and read books, and that's basically all I wanted to do anyway. Like they had to force me to hang out with the people. I was like, you know, when friends called and they were like, do you want to go out and hang out? And I was like looking at my parents and I was like, please tell me I can't, because I want to read, you know?
And then I came along and people were shocked.
Yeah. You know, when we started hanging out, my mom was like, are you gay? And I was like, but no. It's just like, but you're hanging out with a person. I thought it was because you were dating or something. And I was like, no. She's just the same like me.
She understands me.
We hang out and we don't talk for 5 hours and then I go home.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, what the fuck? What kind of friendship do you have? I like it. It's a good friendship.
It is a very good friendship. I also remember us, because, you know, high school, and we didn't want to go like separate ways after high school. So we just walked around the very, very tiny little, I don't want to say city, but the tiny little
village.
And then when we kind of noticed that, okay, we have been walking for like 1.5 hours, we should probably go. And we went to the like crossway where I, like on the other side of the road, I had my little moped thing.
Yeah.
And then we just stopped there, and then we chatted at that
for an hour
place for like half an hour to 1 hour or more. Yeah. And like our teachers had finished their jobs by then, and some of them were looking at us like, what on earth are you guys doing here?
Why are you
Now.
not going home? But like,
Yeah.
it's interesting when you find, like, I was gonna say a friend soulmate, but I think it is, when you like find a soulmate friend who has the same interest as you. No, we are not the same. I really want to like say that. Like Jeena and I, our personalities are very, very different, but we still have the same point of view and the same interests in so many things.
Yeah, I would say that we kind of don't have the same interests as well, because we do have a slight difference, but we are nerdy in the same way, kind of.
Yeah.
And we have a very similar values,
Yeah.
kind of.
And we let each other be passionate. I think like, I think that's the most important thing is like, other people that I try to befriend, when I started like going off on things that I find interesting in the book world, people just like, and they roll their eyes because they thought it was really, really annoying. Even if Jeena is not that interested in very specific librarian stuff, you still let me be nerdy and passionate and like ramble on about it.
Yeah, and I really, really like listening to you ramble on stuff that makes you passionate, because you are super adorable when you're passionate about stuff. Well, you are.
I am a book gremlin.
That you are. That you are. And you're nerdy in very obscure things, which is also kind of interesting in and of itself.
I am. But I mean,
Yeah.
so are you.
Yeah.
I had friends like that who were also that when I nerd about stuff that I like. I mean, that feel like that's the best kind of friendship, when you are interested in what the other people are passionate about. Because like Jeena, when she talks about horses, you can never shut her up. But like, it is kind of interesting to listen to. I knew nothing about horses and like horse stuff. But recently I've been, like, not recently, but over the years, I have been calculating a lot of information, which is kind of cool, because I read a literal fiction about horses, and also War and Peace by Tolstoy. It has a lot of horses and horse stuff. And I feel like, I understand a lot more now because of you. What are you doing? Are you crying?
I also have a kitty that just started and walking towards me across the tables.
I wanted you to cry. I mean, what?
Yeah, but it also kind of makes sense, because I know a whole lot more about horror or genres and ways of cataloging things now than I used to do.
Yeah, but systems.
Yeah, systems! And also like a whole lot about the book world in and of itself, because I used to be the kind of person who was kind of scared of classical literature, because I thought that it was super high class and really, really difficult to read.
Yeah.
And because of Ophi, I kind of don't think that way. Like, I
she-
have a whole lot of classical literature that I am to read. I have read Monkey King, for crying out loud.
Jeena was like, if a bird brain like Ophi can read it, so can I. Can you please say I'm not a bird brain, please?
Yeah, you're not a bird brain, but that
Thank
kind of
you.
make me remember how I started Latin class, because that was before I knew you.
Yeah, we met
Yeah.
in Latin class, by the way.
Yeah, we met before that, because during the whole welcome to high school bit, you and I were in the same class,
Yeah,
like the
I
same
didn't
group.
care about you until Latin class.
Yeah. And my first recollection of you then was basically that you forgot to have a change of clothes, and you were a city girl and kind of forgetful.
Yeah.
And then you came to Latin class basically going like, I want to learn Latin because I want to make my own fantasy language.
Yeah.
And then my brain just went like, hey, if this girl can do this, what's stopping me from doing the same thing?
Damn.
And that wasn't kind of
condescending, no?
Yeah, it sounds condescending, but it was more like a bit that before that point, I thought that authors were these really, really clever, smart people that were nowhere near
You're not
me.
making it sound better.
No, I am, because I had the kind of notion that authors aren't normal people. And all of a sudden I met this normal girl that just had a very clear goal in mind, like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that kind of inspired me, like, hey, this is not something that's impossible. But that was also before, I knew you, but that was kind of the first real picture of you that I kind of got, that you had really, really big goals, and you kind of inspired me, the first thing you actually did, kind of. And then we started talking about books, and it kind of went from there. You still inspire me to this day.
I thought Jeena was a stuck-up bitch when I first met her.
Yeah.
Which I think is super funny. Like, I did not remember we were in Nollningen together, to be honest. And I was friends with like the cool girls in the class. We're not friends after a while because they were assholes. But one of the girls...
And I was a new girl. Like, I came from another city.
Yeah, she was an outsider.
Yeah, I was an outsider. I was an outlander.
And it was like one of the girls in my class, that was like my BFF at that time. She hated Jeena with a passion because they apparently had like a group work together, and Jeena refused to do this girl's part. And she was like, but you're smarter, you do it. And Jeena was like, no, it's a group effort, we both do it. And I don't know if she actually did it and you like told the teachers that she didn't do anything, or if she like did her part in the end anyway. But all I remember was like she talking badly about you because you would like refuse to help her and you only did your part of the group work, which I never understood why she was mad about, because I was like, well, you need to do your part, girl. You know. And then like the first, like when we talked for the first time, it was like in Latin class when I had like ditched the bitchy girls and like the popular girls for reasons we don't have to talk about.
Yep.
I had ditched them and I was like, I need a new friend. And the only one who was like in the area that day was like, I was standing outside the classroom waiting for Latin class to start, and then Jeena came and she was standing alone, and I was like, in my head I was like, if I talk to her, 1, we can be friends, and 2, it would piss the other girl off, because then I would like befriend you, which I knew she hated. So I was like, you know, okay, what do I talk about? Because I don't know how to make friends. So I turned to you and I asked you, oh, have you read the books about Julius Caesar by the author Conny Gulden? And you just stared at me like, what the fuck? And you legit looked right into my eyes, into my soul, did not change your expression at all. You were like stone dead in your entire face, and you just told me no. And you just kept staring at me like with a blank face. And I was like, okay, shit, sorry. Like trying to start a conversation,
I had a resting bee face, and I did not learn how to deal with that until many years later.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, that was a bad idea. I'm not talking to this girl anymore. And I was like, when I get it, and I looked the other way. And then you asked me, like, but I've read this series. Have you read this series? I don't know what it's called in English, this series. What is it called? The Temeraire.
His Majesty's Dragon.
Oh yeah, you asked me about that. And I was just like, I turned around like, I have read that. And then we nerded about that. And
wasn't it the Aragon series though?
Maybe it was
it Temeraire? I thought it was Aragon that I asked you about because I thought that I need to ask her about something popular that I think that she's actually read. So I think I went Aragon.
I was very specific because I was like, I need to ask her something. If she's interested in Latin, Julius Caesar. Okay, Connie Gulden is a good author.
I had no idea who that was.
You should totally read those books. They are amazing. He also have a series on Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great, and like I love his way of writing. Like his writing historical fiction is to die for.
Okay.
I started reading his books. Like I think I started reading the Connie Gulden Julius Caesar books when I started Latin class, so I think I actually just finished the first book, and that's why I asked you about it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Sounds like a drama being created on the spot. No, this is actually what happened when we became friends, because after that I just started stalking Jeena, and I was like, we talked about books, this makes her my friend, so I started stalking her, and after that we were inseparable, and people thought we started dating.
And it kind of was a big of a transition because we actually went to two different classes. Kind of. I went to the natural science class.
Social studies.
Yeah. But our classes the first year had basically every lesson together.
Yeah.
So we were like two different classes but one class. And I had befriended in quotation marks, but I hang around with a couple of people from my class.
Yeah.
And they were not happy that Ophi tagged along.
I know why.
Yeah, I don't know why now. I didn't know why then. But the girl, I don't know if when they got together, but the girl and one of the boys got together. And the boy was Ophi's ex.
That was my ex-boyfriend.
So she was super, like, self-conscious and really didn't want Ophi along.
Yeah, because she
jealous
stuff. She thought I wanted him back. Maybe I wanted him back actually. Maybe I should have gotten him back, but I've seen he's pretty bald nowadays, so I don't think so. He got babies now too. Yeah. He's also a math science teacher.
Yeah, I know that. I thought I met him in the big city when we both studied there. Which is kind of interesting because he actually didn't graduated when we did.
Yeah. I think he started a year after, right? Or something like that?
He and his friend got it a year after.
Yeah. But I mean, they were like the goofy guys of the class, so like it makes sense though.
Yeah,
like,
it kind of makes sense, but it's also like you can goof off, but as long as you goof off only during the breaks, but they goofed off a whole lot more.
That's true.
And you can pass through a lot of different classes, but you can't go through natural science goofing off.
Yeah.
You can't read that amount of physics and math and chemistry. And they did the computer science part, if I'm remembering correctly as well. So they had programming classes and stuff.
Oh.
I think at least one of them, I don't know if both had that, but at least one of them. So I think they read like all of the math classes as well. I did that too though, but I didn't study math at all. I still passed with the highest grade.
I saw suddenly when I was scrolling on TikTok yesterday, it has nothing to do with books or blah 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 or anything, but about math. I was scrolling on TikTok yesterday because I couldn't sleep, and suddenly I was like, they were like, this is how you calculate these kind of math problems, and I was like, ew, you know, and I scrolled past it because, like, you know me, I hate math and numbers. And
it's interesting.
And my TikTok was just like, you've seen one now. Even if you scrolled on it, you need to have it all now. So every time I open my TikTok now, he's like, you wanna know how to calculate this thing? And I was like, no, I don't want to know. So I'm on the math side of TikTok right now. I don't know why. How did that happen?
I am on a side of YouTube shorts that I do not wish to be around.
We're all in the same boat then, I feel like.
And it's like, you were so baffled by the notion of a person having a dragon puppet on their hand that you just try to figure out what on earth is going on because you watched it. That must mean that you liked the weird paper dragons on your hand, and if you like this stuff, all the power to you. I don't. And I got flooded by this, and because shorts started noticing that, oh no, she's actually scrolling past these things. She must have graduated to wanting to watch 12-year-olds thinking that they are animals and wearing animal heads.
Oh no, so you're basically on child furry side.
Yeah, I have, for some reason, gotten into the cringe furry 12-year-old part.
Oh my god. I've started getting a lot of kid TikToks as well. Like, you know, not the kids are funny, look how he fell on this kind of thing. But like, legitimately
12-year-olds thinking that they are cool. I am on that side too. And it's so cringe.
Yeah.
It's so cringe. That is also why I talked about the furry thing being cringe, because they are 12-year-olds. That's why they are cringe.
Yeah, not because of the furry thing.
Yeah, not because of the furry thing. Real fursonas are kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the 12-year-old cringe things, really expensive.
Yeah, but it's like, you know, everything kids do today is super cringe. But it's like, you know, I see these kids and they think they're doing something. Like, they think they're cooking, you know. They think that they are so smart and so intelligent, and you just look at it and you see it has like 2 likes but like 500 comments, and you know he's being roasted in the comments, and you're like, yeah. And it's like, and they're using sounds or music where you clearly can see they don't understand the meaning of. They are dancing to this song and they don't know what the song means. Probably, maybe. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
There's so many cringy kids out there. Like, I'm so happy I'm born at a time where social media was not a thing, because like imagine.
Oh, that would have been so bad.
Imagine us, you know, the cringy things we did as kids being forever on the cloud. Oh my god. Like, that would
the way that we were
me.
sitting really cool under the stairway.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh.
We were so cool.
Or you had your Converse and you painted on your Converse, or you
had duct tape over your Converse because they were falling apart because you were dragging your feet.
Oh my god.
They're just
I think the
duct tape
the
is
trend without understanding him. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, that too. And also the weird, like the no light at all, so you can't even see that it's a 12-year-old until it's too late.
Yeah.
And the bad angles and everything is just bad, and you just see their face and they think they are really cool, but they have no idea how to show it.
I also started getting like a lot of like Minecraft shorts, which is like, I don't mind the Minecraft shorts because I do enjoy occasionally playing Minecraft, but I'm getting children screaming playing Minecraft. And I started getting, specifically, there's apparently a mod giving you super creepy creepers in the cave that screams, and you put that on the server and all the kids scream and scream and scream. And I mean, the mod sounds super scary and it looks super scary. Like the monsters, super scary. The sounds, super scary. I would get a heart attack, but I don't want to see an 8-year-old playing it and screaming on the top of his lungs, you know, with the high-pitched voice. Like, it's enough I'm getting that at work sometimes, you know?
At first I thought you meant a mod that basically changes how things move. But that can be scary when it comes to creepers and spiders and zombies, but
you know, this is
it's pretty cool as well because the horses are twitching their ears and they actually graze and stuff. I kind of want that, but I don't know where to find it yet. I haven't looked into it.
No, it's spooky and stuff. Not my cup of tea though.
Yeah, Minecraft is scary enough as it is.
I don't know. It's like, you know, TikTok and YouTube Shorts, like, they think they know you, but they don't, because I only see stuff I don't want to see. I do get a lot of Has-Been Hotel right now, and in the beginning it was fun to see the Has-Been, like, cosplayers and stuff or videos on the series, but like now I've seen it twice, the series, and I've seen too much of it on TikTok, and I also have some of the songs on my Spotify playlist. I'm pretty over it right now, so can you please stop showing me them, because like all I'm doing is scrolling fast past it.
Yeah.
But I'm still getting them recommended to me.
And sometimes YouTube Shorts, they do the correct assumption that I like horses. Surprise, surprise, I like horses.
Yeah.
But there's a big thing when it comes to the whole horse world where you either wear a helmet or you're super against helmets. And as someone who's taught English and taught the weird concept of consequences, I am very firm on the wear helmet people side.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to influencers, because you are influencing young kids who don't know better. If you want to risk your life on your own, fine by me, I don't care. You're a grown-ass adult, do whatever you want. But what you put out towards kids who will mimic you and don't know the risks, that irks me when you don't have a helmet on. And there are so many who doesn't have a helmet on.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
I feel the rant coming, so I'm gonna stop myself there.
Yeah, I don't understand why you don't want to protect yourself. But it's like, you know, the only algorithm that I am in love with, if I go to my Instagram, there's 4 things that I get. Number 1, I get classical literature posted. Love it. Oh my god, I love old books. Come on. Number 2, I'm getting crocheting stuff. Love it. I love creative things. I love getting free patterns. Love it. Number 4, I'm getting cat videos. I love cats. I love kittens, you know? And number 4 and last, I'm getting pigs.
I was about to say pigs.
I'm getting pigs. I'm getting pig videos. I'm getting pig pictures. Oh my god. All the pictures of pigs in small outfits and tutus. Oh, It's so cute, and for everyone who doesn't know, I love pigs, and I'm gonna buy a pig soon. In a very soon future, I'm gonna have a pig as a pet.
2 pigs.
2?
Yeah, don't they want company?
They do.
Yeah, so 2 pigs.
3 pigs.
3 pigs. Okay.
4 pigs.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said
Pig
anything.
farm. Getting piglets? Yeah, but I'm getting mini pigs or micro pigs. Because not like a real big ass pig, because they get huge, right? I want like the mini one who gets like a dog size.
Dog size.
Dog size roughly. You walk them in like a leash when you do like a dog. They do like to be outside, and they are much cleaner than dogs and cats put together. And they eat legit everything but cucumbers.
I don't eat cucumbers. I
don't-
thought they ate everything.
I don't know. Cucumbers is weed.
Okay. I guess.
It's a thing. I don't know why, but it's a thing. They don't like cucumbers.
Okay.
Maybe
Chickens eat basically everything as well.
if you're getting 3 pigs, you have to make sure they all proper windproof houses. I will make sure they have windproof houses. They're going to sleep in my bed with me though, so
Yeah.
like I want like 1 pig. I want him to be named Sir Bacon, and one to be called Fun Fashion, which means minced meat.
Yeah. Fun minced meat.
It's a good name, so yeah.
Yeah. I know a human called Fun Fashion, so there are people called Fun Fashion. So.
Isn't it? No, I'm thinking about someone else. I was thinking about Fänrik Stål. That's someone else.
And that's someone else.
Yeah. The Baconator! That's also a good name. But I need like a name that if he runs away, I can be like, you know, it need to be like
Grumpy!
It needs to be like a good screaming name, so he be like, oh shit, I did wrong and mom is mad. You know, you can't really scream like, you know, Sir Bacon, come get your ass bacon. I mean, you can, but you want something.
Harder!
You want something better. Pork and McBacon? Maybe. I did want to have like, because my cat name is Sherlock Holmes, I do want to have someone maybe called Moriarty, but I feel like a pig is too nice, because pigs are very, very nice and calm creatures. Maybe not a Moriarty type. Maybe my next cat is supposed to be a Moriarty? Porkyarty? Oh my god. You can give it a Cantonese name in English, it would be called roasted pork. Oh my god. Aren't cats kind of scared of cucumbers as well? I think it's because cats are kind of colorblind, and if you put like a cucumber behind them, and if they don't like hear you putting something behind them, their first instinct is, oh shit, there's something snake-like behind me that I did not hear come up behind me, and that's why they freak out. It's not like, you know, cucumbers in particular freak cats out. It's more like the shape reminds them of like snakes and other things.
There's actually research to say that humans and primates are extremely good at recognizing snakes compared to cats, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's like, scientists have basically taken a picture of a snake and blurred it out in black and white so that it's just a big fog. and primates, including humans, are quicker to recognize that it is a snake before most animals are.
I saw a league test with that, League of Legends.
Mhm.
It was like they took like the champions icons and did that with. I'm getting every right every time, and I feel like there's most likely something wrong with me. And everyone is like, "Oh my god, this was so hard. I only got like 5," and I'm like, especially because they also get like the icons in different skins, and I still know every champion in every skin that's blurred out. Like, do you have issues when you can see what's blurred out and not?
Yeah, I made a Pokemon test with one of my students one day. Like, they were doing different tests and they just had a Pokemon test out, and we were supposed to have a class, but a Pokemon test has to be taken.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously. And they don't know that I'm a huge nerd. I don't know how they missed it, but they don't know.
Yeah.
So I took the test, and one of the questions I wasn't sure about, it was about which Pokemon game came out X year, and it was Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
And I guessed another game. I got that question wrong, and then it came to the results, and I had 2 questions wrong. And my little brain right then and there just went like, no, I had 1 wrong. But I couldn't say that!
Of course not.
Because then I would really show the kids how much of a nerd that I was, because they were like, oh my gosh, you actually had like 8 out of 10 questions correct. And I was like, 9.
Right?
Yeah, that's something that you can't, like, yeah, I couldn't correct. So there, I just went like, yeah, I know my Pokemon, and went away from there just being annoyed.
I love working in a school with teenagers or kids or whatever, like lower aged people than yourself. Because like I can flex so hard. And to be fair, I can do this in a public library too. I've done it on like other people as well. But like the satisfaction of someone walking in and they telling you about a book extremely badly. Like it could be like there was a green cover. It was like here on this display 4 months ago. It was something with a love story in it. You know? And you're like, shit, that can be anything. But you know, when you somehow actually know the answer, and you can just like, oh yeah, and you go and you get the book and you be like, is it this book? And they go, oh my god, that's it, how did you know? And I'm like, you know, flipping my hair, and I'm like, you know, I'm just that smart.
I did that with the 9th graders. So the 9th graders are basically our seniors. Those are the oldest kids at our school. They are basically 15, 16-year-olds. And they had apparently seen on TikTok or wherever that if you take like hand alcohol cleaning on the pads that you clean the whiteboard with, it's just gonna be a black line everywhere. So they tried to fool me into this. They basically just went like, hey, you can clean this with the hand alcohol thing. You should do that. And me being on TikTok, I actually had no idea that this was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I also know the kids, and I also know basic chemistry.
Yeah.
So my brain instantly just went like, nah, this is a bad idea. So I just told them that, no, I won't. That's a very bad idea. And they were like, no, it's honestly. And I just went like, no, it's gonna be a big black line. And their first thought was that, oh, you have tried this. So they just said, oh, someone did this to you already. And I was like, no, I just know my basic chemistry. I might not be a chemistry teacher, but I know my basic chemistry, people. If you have alcohol, that's gonna break apart the ink in the whiteboard pen that is already on the thing. And that's gonna mean that it's gonna be a big black line. They were super impressed. But it's like 8th grade chemistry. Technically, they should already know that.
I don't know. I just find it so charming how dumb they are sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's
And how
sad.
easily impressed they are, because it wasn't even my subject.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's fun. One time.
And somehow they aren't impressed when I basically go like, there are 4 fundamental forces, people. Technically there are 3, but we're gonna call them 4, and they are these, and they go in these lengths, and they work in this manner. And they're just like,
Yeah.
But when I know this random chemistry fact, apparently I'm the cleverest person that ever has lived.
Yeah, but you are. What do you mean?
I'm not.
I love working for kids. Working with young
Yeah.
people keeps you young in spirit as well. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And it just keeps you super frustrated and bitter at times as well.
Yeah, it keeps you on your toes as well. Like,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. And it's you're never having a boring day at work, because you're either having a really infuriating day at work, or you're having the best day ever. There is no in between.
I love coming to work, and every kid wants to have a hug with a librarian. There's also a specific international hug a librarian day. Everyone should go to a library and hug their local librarian on that day. Just saying.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's
The 15-year-old doesn't want to hug me.
Oh, damn. That's sad.
A 14-year-old boy actually hugged me when it was summer break, and he went around to hug random other teachers as well.
That's a thing.
Like some of those teachers were really confused and basically just went like, I don't even know the kid. I got a hug. I'm confused.
I need to hug a librarian day. Say it's soon actually. It's the 1st of March. That's
That's Friday.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's in 2 days.
Who wanna hug me on Friday?
I want to hug you any day of the week.
On Friday is the only day I accept hugs from peasants. But yeah, go to your local library and say it's International Hug a Librarian Day and ask if you can hug them. It's a thing, you know. Like,
I'm pretty sure a lot of them will be very confused.
No. Like, you know, when I worked in the public library, not school library, legit people came in and were like, "It's Hug a Librarian Day," and I'm like, why? 'Cause some people you don't want to hug, you know, but but at least people always ask, you know, permission before they actually do hug you, so that's good. But it's still kind of funny that many people actually know. Hello everybody, how's the stream so far? It's really good, Flagler. It's very good. I think we're going to end it soon though, because I need to go to bed very early and I do want to do some reading before bed.
Yeah, same. I'm going with my coworker to work tomorrow, so I kind of need to actually be on time.
If I get a restraining order from the library, it's on both of you. Hey, what do you mean both?
No.
It's on.
It was Office ideas. Wait.
I'm blaming you for everything. What do you mean?
Well, I do know that you blame me for everything, but you're the one who brought it up.
Yeah, because it's an important day. It's the only day I get hugs on.
Yeah.
I only work till lunch on Friday.
I kind of want to end work quickly this week because
You are an accomplice, Jeena. Exactly.
yeah, I'm always an accomplice.
The thing is, I come with bad ideas. Jeena planned them out. And then we do them together. But I feel like you can blame Jeena because without her brain, they would never get to see the light.
But without Ophi's brain, I wouldn't come up with the ideas in the first place.
I feel like we have a very chaotic friendship.
That we do. Which is also so surprising when I put my gremlin side into my streaming. People are surprised.
Yeah, I find that weird. You're more homicidal than I am.
Yee.
Joint effort. yeah, that's what we do.
You're more toward torturers than I am, though.
Yeah, I don't know why we should kill easily. If someone, done something, we torture them until...
But the blood splatter and the pretty colors.
But you can blood splatter after we torture them.
But the blood fountains, Ophi. You can't have blood fountains if you torture them too much.
That is true. But I did see a movie once that gave me ideas, right? Where it like... where they cut out like the eyelid so that you can't like close your eyes, but you have to like look, and then they put like a mirror up in the ceiling, so like when you were laying on the table being like tortured, you have to like look up in the mirror and look down on what they were doing, and every time you passed out or was on the way to pass out, they gave you like adrenaline so you would stay awake and experience the torture as much as possible for as long as possible. It gave me ideas and it sparked something in me when I was like 13 or something. I was like, this is good. And and then I wondered what was wrong with me until I remembered that my dad let me watch very splattery horror movies when I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
I blame my dad.
That does explain a whole lot.
Yeah, I can't watch any horror movies today though, because everything is just so generic and bad. I heard they are making a horror movie on the Backrooms. Everyone is like, oh, it's going to be so good, but I just see it and feel like it's probably gonna be bad. Like everything.
And me with horror, I'm usually more scared of being scared than I actually get scared.
Yeah.
And also when I worked at the summer camp with horse girls, we had one night where we usually watched horror movies, and I watched a couple with Ophi first, and Ophi just brought me straight into the Asian horror. So when I watched a couple of American horror movies with those girls,
They were pathetic.
They were pathetic, and it was hilarious to look at the girls being scared. I was just looking at them.
Yeah. Asian horror movies are the best, because like when it comes to Asian horror movies, they don't play on jump scares. I mean, they do sometimes, but they are very limited in their jump scares. They do more for the vibe, and they build
the psychological horror.
Yeah, they build it up really well, and the storytelling is really well, so it makes you think, and when you're thinking, it starts creeping in you, and that's what makes it uncomfortable. But then it's like, sure, I also jump sometimes at like jump scares when I go to the cinema and looking at the big screen, because if something is jumping out on you, you're going to flinch. It doesn't actually mean I was scared. It's just like a reaction you have if something is just like rushed towards you. So it's very big difference in how they make horror. But there is Joachim Lundell in Sweden. he have done a lot of Swedish horror recently, and everyone is saying they are amazing. And his storytelling is amazing, and he builds them on true events in Sweden. And they all have ties to the social media, and I kind of want to watch them.
My brain just goes like, it's a Swedish movie, it's basically horrible.
That's what I thought. You know, it has to be super bad because it's Swedish. You know, it's probably like a B movie or something, like, you know, very like, ugh. But I've heard it's actually legitimately really good. So I want to watch it, but I'm scared that if I actually do watch it and it is bad, I will be very, very sad.
Yeah. But also, you haven't tried Swedish horror.
Yeah.
So it could, like, there is a big possibility that it's better than the American.
Have you seen the Spanish horror series called Rec? Yeah, I've seen Rec. Yeah.
But speaking about horror movies, I have two movies that kind of stand out to me that I really remember to this day, even though it was years ago since I watched them. One of them is the first one that I kind of watched. I think I watched that before I watched with Ophi, or it was right after. But it was if it wasn't the first that horror movie that I watched, it was the first that I watched on my own. And I don't know if it was called the Ghost Ship or something, but it was it was a ship that was abandoned with a whole lot of ghosts in it, and one of most of them were kind of nice ghosts. They were stuck there, and there are certain scenes from that I still remember, like the big hook just crashing into a man and slitting him in half until it just came to rest in his chin bone and hanged him.
Yeah.
With his innards falling out, a blood splatter. And spoilers, but this is a very old movie, so yeah. But it kind of ends in a way that you just go like, oh no. It doesn't end with, and they lived happily ever after, like some horror movies does. Yeah. This one doesn't.
Yeah, the best endings.
Yeah, it's a very open ending. And another that I really remember, and sure, I remember The Grudge and stuff like that, but one that kind of stuck with me was I don't know if it's Hotel Room XX or a certain number, but it had a number.
1307?
Could be.
It's a Stephen King book.
It was an Asian horror movie though. And it was basically a room or an apartment or something that a group of people got stuck in. And one of the scenes basically had hair spreading across the wall and the floor and the ceiling.
Oh, isn't that like stuff? Apartment 1303?
Yeah, it could be that, because I just remember that it's either a hotel room and then a number, or
I think it's an apartment
I feel
number. Like we watched it together because I have that as a DVD.
Yeah, I know that I watched it with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant a psychological thriller horror by Stephen King, because that is mind fucking, that one. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's Hotel 13 something.
Probably not.
No, you need to see that one.
One fun thing that happened during the camp though, we were watching a horror movie that had something to do with electronical lights, like the ghost controlled electricity.
Did it start flimmering?
And we shut it down. Me and some other girls were like, it's late. I had the morning stable. I'm gonna go to bed. It's 1 a.m. I need to be up at 7 a.m. I'm gonna go to bed. And some of the other girls were like, we're gonna watch another one.
Okay.
And I had the night stable as well. I think I wanted to go check on my horses or whatever. I wanted to go outside and check on the horses. Don't remember if I had to or if I wanted to, but I went out. And all of a sudden, I just hear a scream as I'm going out through the door, and they come running out and were like basically blabbering nonsense.
Yeah.
No idea what they were telling me, and I was like, yeah, sure, you can come with me, it's fine. And then as soon as we got outside, they were like, the lamp started flimmering.
Oh no.
Yeah, and they were so scared. I had one girl on each arm, and I just went like, fine, you can come, it's cool. The ghost is not gonna come and eat you, it's fine.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's kind of cute. I'm not a
It's
fan
kind of cute, and I also just think that why on earth is it always me who gets stuck in the kind of, it's fine, Pat, you're good.
I do like third-person horror shooter games like Resident Evil, Dead Space. Yeah, I like horror games as well.
Yeah.
I realized that I have roughly 1,000 games on my Steam, right? And roughly 70% of all those games are horror games. Like what, 1,000? Yeah, I think I have more than 1,000 because I had 1,000 last summer and I've been buying more games since then. So it's maybe 1,100 or 1,200. But then again, you know, like I've been collecting games. I've been buying games just to have games on my Steam, right? But then I also have 3 different Steam accounts. But there's one Steam account that I have like all these thousands of games on, and then on the other 2 I have like 10 games on each account. Don't ask me why. I just did. But there's one game, Soma, I actually have on all 3 accounts, and don't know why. So dumb, really. I think it is like, you know, I forgot to like log in to like one, and then it was just like, ugh, I will make a new one, you know?
Crazy.
But it's blah, whatever. Consumerism, you know?
Yeah.
But ending
But it's
stream was the idea, to go to sleep, you know?
yeah, and read a book
Yeah.
and make sure that the fire is put out as
Yeah.
well.
So many
I'm pretty sure that
things.
it is because I haven't tended to it for like 3 hours.
So many things to do. I need to make tea, and then I'm going to go and lay down and read.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay down and read too. Maybe I'll start The Hobbit.
Do it.
Because I kind of feel like I have the brain with me right now.
I do not have brain with me, but I am currently listening to an audiobook that I only picked up because Stephen King said on his Twitter 2 years ago that he loved that book, and that's why I'm listening to it right now. It's not very good, but it's a book. That's for sure.
I know.
It's not bad. I just think it's like, I think the issue is I've been very much in my own head this week. So when I've been listening to it, I haven't fully listened to it, you know? So I feel like it's probably really good, but my mind been somewhere else. So I haven't really fully taken the book or audiobook in.
Yeah.
Or giving it like the chance that it probably needs. So I've been putting it on the side, but I really want to finish it soon as well. I also found, by the way, an audiobook. This is crazy, right? I found an audiobook by, let's see, Arne Dahl. I don't know if you know who Arne Dahl is.
Nope.
He's a huge detective author in Sweden.
That explains why I don't know of him.
He have written short stories about migraine.
Mm-hmm.
And these stories, apparently, it says like this: these stories are psychedelic in a way that it makes you feel like you're having a migraine attack. It's not actually giving you one, but it lets you, as a non-migraine haver, feel like how it is for a person who experiences migraines, and he describes it very vividly how it feels and how it looks like in every way of the process. Apparently it's very, very good. The audiobook is only like 43 minutes. And I really want to listen to it, but I'm really scared it's gonna give me a migraine.
Yeah, I just feel like I've had, I think I've had 2 migraines or something in my life, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Enough. I still remember the first one because that was super scary, because I was playing Minecraft and all of a sudden there was this blob in the middle of the screen that I just couldn't see in.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it started. Like for me, because normally I don't get a migraine with the headache part, but I can get the visual auras sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I get those a whole lot more often than I get the actual full-on migraine.
It's actually more common to have that than the actual pain. Did you know that?
Yeah, yeah, I think I've read that somewhere as well. And it's very uncommon that I get the whole I can't see, but I can get some flimmerings, basically.
Yeah.
And that is scary enough.
Yeah.
I have pushed through that one into a migraine once. Never on earth am I gonna do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so used to migraines because I have multiple a week. But it's just like, I find it interesting that someone finally speaks about migraines in like fiction, and they have written short stories about the experience of having migraines for everyone to understand how it is, because most people just be like, oh, so it's a headache. I saw recently like a short of like a girl who came into like the emergency, and she was like, I have a headache, and when she means headache, she meant like migraine, my head is exploding headache, but she didn't know she had a migraine. I think it also turns out that she had something on her brain, like not a tumor, but like something pushing on her brain or something. Anyway, like she came into the emergency room, and just because it was a cold, everyone like treated her like, oh, boo-hoo, little child can't even like take care of like a small headache. And everyone got to like go before her, and she had to wait for like 6 hours in the emergency room until she actually got any help at all. And I can feel that. Like every time I say I have a migraine, everyone is just like, well, I also have headaches, but I still go to work. And I'm like, yeah, I'm blind. I can't stand up. Like, you don't understand. There's a difference in a migraine and actual headache. Like, and so I find it interesting that someone have explained this. I want to read it or listen to it, but I'm also scared to do it because I don't want to like trigger something I don't have right now.
I feel like one of the big differences between a migraine and a headache is that, sure, you want to avoid having a headache, but you're not scared of a headache.
Yeah.
You're kind of scared of a migraine. Like I've had a couple. What if I can avoid getting a migraine ever, I'm gonna avoid it.
Yeah. But it's
Like if I'm gonna do something that might give me a headache, I'm gonna be fine doing it. If I'm gonna do something that might give me a migraine, no.
Yeah. It's just like, you know, headaches are so crippling, and some people just don't understand it. But I think it's like the common thing that if you never experienced it yourself, you have no idea, so you just like push it all to one side to what you are known to, and everyone knows how a headache feels like, so they just assume it's a headache, but maybe a little bit worse.
Yeah, and it's also like if you try to explain what a migraine is, kind of have to start with the headache. Because when it goes to that far that it's full on, then the headache is kind of the main thing. But it's like when calling it a headache is also like calling an elephant a horse.
Yeah, you can definitely.
It might have 4 legs, but
it's not the same.
Yeah, it has 4 legs. You can sit on it. Basically the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, horrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have to say good night.
Mm.
It's been lovely though. It's nice. We will do this again in a month, and I think that we will start maybe inviting guests on our little podcast and stuff. So if you guys feel like someone of you guys want to be here and speak to us about a subject that has to do with literature or books or anything, you know where to find us. Please maybe have a subject in mind, because just saying I want to speak books with you is very it's too big and too broad. So I feel like maybe we need like a subject. So if you feel like this is a subject I have a lot of passion about, I would love to discuss this with you. You know where to find us. Otherwise, if you just feel like you want to, we can maybe look for a subject together and like work something out. But just saying, hey, it's just put on, because I've had people in my DMs actually do this, Jeena. I have not told you, but there are a couple who have written to me and been like, I want to be on the podcast because that sounds super cool. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And they are like, books. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all, but like maybe we need a specific subject for each episode, you know. And they like, oh, we can just talk about books and see where it leads us. And sure, that works, but if you don't know each other and it's a guest, I feel like we want to have some sort of like structure on it. Because I feel like it works for us.
You and me can kind of do that because we know each other that well that we can kind of have a starting point and then we see where it takes us.
Yeah.
But it's way more difficult to do that when you don't know the person.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, because we don't want to be like, you know, talking about something and the other people is just standing there like a big blank candle being like, what? You know?
Yeah.
So we want it to be a little bit specific. It could be like, I want to talk about this genre, for example, just so we know, you know, like, you know, not just books in general. Yeah, but if you know someone or if you are someone who wants to, we are very open-minded because we're looking to have guests on the podcast. Otherwise, we will have another episode next month. And don't forget to follow Jeena's channel as well. You can find her in the description, and you can find it on the pinned comment I have in the chat as well. Or press her name in the title and it will take you to her channel. She's more a cinnamon bun wholesome game streamer who does Pokemon and other wholesome stuff
with a slight bit of murderous intent. But otherwise a cinnamon bun.
Yeah. But do you have anything else to add before we say goodbye?
No, I don't think so. I've had a very good time here. It's fun.
It's always fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to hang around with friends.
It is.
And I kind of want to get back to streaming. I've been having a bit of a break, but I'm coming back.
Yeah, you've been moving and everything. Things take time to put stuff up, you know, and get internet to work, so it's not a big deal, I guess.
Yeah, and also to feel at home and to have this, like the peace of mind to actually do other things than just sleep and work.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, bye bye
Yeah.
everyone, and have a wonderful evening and weekend or week. And
Yes.
happy reading, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion or rant that we have done. We did talk a lot about elitism, but then we got into fantasy and young adult, and then our relationship as friends.
Yeah.
And then horror movies, like always, we sidetrack a little bit, but it's been interesting.
A lot.
And murder.
Yeah,
We did
murder. Yeah, don't forget about murder, but it's you and me in a podcast. We're gonna talk about murder and torture at some
least
point.
once.
At least once.
Yeah. But thank you everyone for keeping us company and liking the stream, and for the follows that I've seen coming in as well. Thank you everyone, and much love to you all. Bye.
Do take care of yourself and one another. Bye bye.